Hi Homeworthy, my name is Matt Allegreta. Welcome to my holiday home in New Jersey.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Matt Allegreta, and welcome to New Jersey, where I'm going to show you what I've done for the holidays. I was born and raised in New Jersey, and every weekend I was dragged to a garage sale or a thrift shop with my grandma and my mom, and the thrill of the hunt and collecting has really been just kind of instilled in me from a very young age. I actually have about 4 jobs, and they all kind of have to do with storytelling, and that's really how deciding what happens in my home really comes to light. So my main gig is I'm a prop stylist for photo shoots. So I style these rooms for people and environments to live in. I'm a visual merchandiser for a few stores. I am a antique dealer. I have my own little antique vintage booth. And I'm also, which I think is the biggest thing, passion project wise, is I am a set designer for community theater productions and have my own theater company with my friend. Everything that I do is storytelling. So when I find items and I look and hunt for items, it's amazing what stories they have to tell and how I can let them live on in my own home. I'm actually not a seasonal decorator. I don't usually decorate for holidays except for Christmas. It's my favorite collection that I have, and it's like 10 years in the making. It actually all started with a tree topper that's on the top of my tree, and I just fell in love with the colors and the shiny brightness and the kind of hope for this time of year. And as soon as I started that collection, I got more and more ornaments, and that moved into more Santas, and then got into different trays and bits and baubles, and I think it really started to kind of avalanche into something that's much larger than I would have imagined. But I just love the bright colors and the happiness of this time of year, so if my home can feel that way as well, I think it's a win. All right, welcome to my living room, which I feel like is the holiday hub of the house, mostly because of the Christmas tree, which is my tried and true favorite collection of all time. Just full of collected ornaments from all over the world and all colors, and so nice. I think when I first came in here to this apartment, I just wanted it done, right? So I went to all the big box stores, got all random furniture, and then after a while I realized that I really didn't love the kind of generic look, and I really wanted something that specifically felt like me. So I kind of started scrapping everything and kind of picking up random found items, and on Facebook Marketplace, through thrift shops, antique stores, until I finally found something and a style that I really loved. I think I was really inspired by Nancy Meyers movies and that cozy feeling of home that really kind of inspired my everyday kind of design of my apartment. And then for Christmas, as a prop stylist, I'm constantly looking up inspiration. I'm on Pinterest all the time, through other people's Instagrams and other socials. And I just fell in love with these old 50s, 60s, colorful, bright trees that were not your traditional red and green, but teal and pink and hand painted, and that touch of the hand that makes things so special. And when people had to make Christmas decorations because that's what they had, and it just felt very special, and I feel like I wanted to bring that special to my space. So my bookshelves are actually a more recent addition to my rented apartment, and I think that is the biggest thing is I rent. So what can I do to make my home feel cozy and feel the way I want without doing anything too permanent? So I can't have built-ins, but I can use IKEA Billy bookshelves with a little extra trim and a little cool figuration to make something that's really, really fun and special. I actually don't really love to read, but I do love old books. I love the look of a library. So I have been collecting books for years. I think that they add so much texture and warmth to the shelves. And I always believe they're called bookshelves for a reason. So we should always have books on our shelves. It shouldn't just be decor. So I love to, sporadically introduce decor with the books as the main component of the shelves. I really love to switch them out all the time, from the holidays to seasonal stuff, but really I like to just change all the time, all my things. I'm constantly finding new thrifted antique items and vintage items, and just showcasing them in this way really showcases them so beautifully. They all have, a perfect place on the shelf. When designing my bookshelves, it was also very important to me to have some kind of system. So each section, each cube of the shelves is actually organized by type of book. So these are actually all of my sea stories. So you'll see, great sea stories and sailing books and things like that. And then I have like fairy tales and poetry and Shakespeare all in kind of individual units. So I also kind of use that just as a helpful in designing. So I did have the ship painting in my ship stories section. And then when I was bringing things out for the holidays, which I absolutely love, these handcrafted carolers that I got in an antique store, I splurged on these because they were so special and different. And they really have that handmade touch of the hand feel. And I just loved the colors, and I could have switched out the art and switched out the books and made it more seasonally appropriate, but then I just loved the backdrop of the colors, and it really didn't matter that it was a ship versus a Christmas type collection. It really felt like that collected and found items really paired beautifully together just because of color alone. I'm actually terrified of Santa. And I've always said this, I've always been a little scared of a strange man coming into your home at night, but I do love the idea of how jolly and happy he is. So when I'm collecting Santas, I'm very, very specific about specifically their face. They really need to be jolly. This old store advertisement is a really great example of he's just so happy. Again, jolly is really the word, whereas other Santas could look very scary depending on their face. I particularly love this chalkware Santa I recently got. And this little guy here, definitely more Father Christmas rather than just like jolly old Saint Nick. I think that kind of aspect really adds a lot to it as well. It's funny that I am not the biggest fan of the Santa imagery, but I do have a lot of them. They have very specific requirements. They have to be jolly, and I feel like I've done a really good job curating that. Because the Christmas season comes around earlier and earlier every year, I love the look of garland and greens in the home. I did have to go faux because they're up for so long and I didn't want to have to change them out. It gets expensive and messy. So I went with this faux cedar garland, which is absolutely stunning. It's like real touch, real feel. And then just to make it a little bit more me, I found these amazing vintage wreath picks, and I just kind of sporadically put them throughout. Because my holiday is less red and green and a little bit more like teal and pink, the pink really adds that holiday touch, paired with some fun ribbon, I think really creates a whimsical and holiday look without being traditionally red and green. If you want your home to feel as cozy as a Nancy Meyers movie, here's a little tip if you're renting and don't have a fireplace. Go to your TV, go on YouTube, find a 12-hour long fireplace, and you got that cozy, even hear that little crackle, and it just adds that little bit of coziness when you don't have a fireplace. I actually don't really watch TV all that often. I really don't have the time with 4 jobs, but I do feel like it's important to have. And when I want those like nights in, it's good to have a TV. But I did want to enclose it or encase it in something that was less prominent in the room. Like this, my room is definitely not based around the TV. So I really wanted a cabinet that was able to close the doors. I ended up finding this cabinet on Facebook Marketplace for relatively inexpensive. And I knew that it was all wood and it was kind of like cheap wood. So I wanted to kind of spruce it up a little bit, and I painted it this beautiful green color. It kind of blended in without being a statement in the room. Again, I didn't want the TV to be the main aspect of the room, but I kept the inside wood, so it kept that warmth and coziness. And then I just started filling it with things I love, the additional books from the bookcase, making sure that is paired through and around, and then really filling it with really fun holiday items. If it's handmade little ceramic trees or little handmade other Christmas items, I think it just adds that it's a great spot to showcase some of those holiday items. Again, not having a fireplace, I was also able to get some stockings. This is the perfect little spot for my stockings for Piper and I. So one thing I do love, which I feel like a lot of people are kind of iffy about, is taxidermy. Always vintage taxidermy. I'm not going out hunting and stuffing. I just really feel like they add a lot of that old world charm. I have 4 pheasants in the house and 2 deer heads. And I really feel like they are in the same realm as art, and how I would change art on the walls and how they feel more sculptural and kind of warmth. I also love the fact that I kind of give them a second life, a way to live and be loved in my own space. So all throughout my house, and you'll see on the tour, I love stranger art. This is one of my favorite portraits. This is a thrift find actually in Vermont, and every time I post him, everyone's like, are you related to that guy? I'm actually not. I have no idea who this is, but I do love to make up stories about who he might be. And I think that a lot of people are a little, put off by stranger art, especially if they don't know them, because they can be a little creepy. But I really do believe that these portraits are of people, and someone took the time to paint them, and they loved them so much that they were able to capture their image, and then they were kind of tossed out. And I feel like I'm really able, and you'll see I have a whole hallway full of them. I'm really able to give them a second love in life, that they get back on the walls, and they're back to a prominent part of my life. Of course, and I pair it with my taxidermy as well. Again, he just adds a nice charm. And actually, both of these I got in Vermont when I was there. Lighting is so important to me, and I think so important to a home. I actually, in preparation for this tour, went out and got the proper bulbs so that all of my lamps are the same warmth. So important. And I think that because lighting is so important in the home, finding the right lights that not only are task driven, but also beautiful are again, so important. This is a great spot for me I will work here a lot of times. I needed a light that was not only going to light the room and the space, but actually be useful to me. And I think so much of what I love to do in my design is it functional and is it beautiful? I think form and function are kind of hand in hand in design, and making sure that something is beautiful, but also in its most purest form useful, really, I think is how I kind of go about designing most spaces in my home. To get into the holiday spirit, and in most spirits, I do love to incorporate music. So I have my record player here. This is an awesome one because it's Bluetooth, so I'm able to bring my little speaker around the house and always have my holiday music going. I grew up waking up to the sounds of the old classic music. Every Sunday was the sound of making Sunday sauce, grilling onions, and Frank Sinatra in the morning. So I love that old school style of music, and it just is, especially this time of year, the most comforting sound. So I always have my record player going. And a great thing to find at the thrift shop is records. So let's move to the tree. I think the first thing to note is that this is a Facebook Marketplace find. This is my dream tree. And it's really important for me and for this look is to have a very sparse tree with lots of space for your ornaments to hang. My love for ornaments really started with this tree topper up here. It was the first thing that I found that I was like, wow, Christmas can be so beautiful, and not just that red and green, and it was this beautiful hot pink color, and I was like, that's how I'm gonna do it. So then it slowly began and slowly started going and really turned into one of my biggest and most loved collections. You'll see every different kind of shape in here, from like long skinnies to simple balls to teardropped to extra large to any kind of shape, including birds. Birds are one of my favorite things to incorporate in the holidays, just really throughout the tree. And I love the antique vintage birds. They're really rare. Well, not that rare, but they're very expensive and they're hard to come by for a good price. And this year I really wanted to add that really beautiful droopiness. So I added all these antique beaded garlands. And they're not that expensive, and I really feel like they add so much whimsy to the tree. But I think if anyone's looking to get this type of style tree, something that I personally love is making sure that your ornament is not hanging off of the tree, but right butt up against the branch. I think not only is it more secure, but it really adds like that really tight feel. That way you can really fill the tree. I think your tree should be more ornament than tree. So when you enter the holiday hub, the living room, I wanted to make sure I had this big grand entrance. So I continued that faux cedar garland throughout, added a little bit of that antique garland, and then I found this vintage metal banner, which I really feel like is like the perfect welcoming touch and really gives you the main idea of what's happening over here. When sourcing items for my home, whether Christmas or not, I mostly love to thrift. And why I love to thrift is really because of the cost. I think a lot of people use thrifting as an overall term when there is much more than just thrifting. There's thrifting, there's antiquing, there's consignment, there's lots of different variations of hunting, and that also really depends on your price point. I think I'm able to have so many Christmas items, and I've found so many Christmas items for an inexpensive cost because I've mostly thrifted things. I think that, one, I love the hunt, right? So that is the best part of finding any item. And I'm going to the thrift shop 3 times a week. I'm going all the time. The more you go, the more you find. I also say all the time on any of my socials, I call it ABC, and that's always buy Christmas, because all year round you want to make sure you're finding those special things. Christmas feels like a seasonal time, but if you're at the thrift shop, there's always something Christmas there. So you want to make sure you're always on the hunt, always an extra eye out for those green and red items. When I first came to look at this apartment, I actually was a day early from when it was on like the market, and I took it right then and there, and it was really because of this kitchen. I think a rented kitchen is really hard to love, and when I saw this basically clean white kitchen, I was like, I'm going to love this and make this the perfect place for me. I'm not a big cook. I love to cook and I love to bake, but this kitchen definitely is inspiring to do so. In most homes, the kitchen is the heart of the home, and that is no exception for me. I do everything here. If I'm working, if I'm crafting, if I'm cooking, it's always happening here. This is like the biggest thoroughway in my apartment, but also it's the place that I spend my most time. And that also means that it needed to be as beautifully decorated for Christmas as the rest of my apartment. So I added a lot of really fun details. Every nook and cranny that I could possibly hit, I definitely tried. I always have these beautiful collected thrifted baskets up over my window. Again, giving that like cozy kind of country style. And I just, instead of doing garland, I just added a whole bunch of faux picks into there. It feels like garland in its own way. So my ornament collection is so vast and so large, and I really have a few favorites. So I decided to do a small countertop tree in my kitchen of all my truly favorites, the super old ones or the specifically special ones that I personally love in finding my collections. I love the Santa heads, the birds, the bells. There's lots of really beautiful, intricate, detailed ones. I also love this little lemon, like perfect for the kitchen, the candlesticks, and I just really felt like this was, again, I'm here the most in the kitchen, so it really felt like this was the spot that I wanted to show off some of my absolute favorite my favorite pieces in my collection. So they're, I think, the most beautiful. The nutcrackers are actually a little story behind them. I think so often when something is broken or damaged, we tend to discard them and throw them out, send them to the thrift shop. I decided a couple years ago that I was going to find all the broken and battered nutcrackers I could find and make a little collection of those misfit toys. So you'll see every one of these nutcrackers is missing a nose or missing a foot or maybe a little too well loved. And I think that patina and that detail of that well-loved life is what makes an item just as beautiful as a brand new item. So this is my little collection. I like to keep them in the kitchen, and I think the layered effect of them, really, anything in mass feels really substantial. So they just feel a very classic Christmas. When I decided to get a dog, I didn't want to bring a crate into the home, but I did want a space that I knew that Piper was going to feel safe. So I decided to take out the door of my kitchen cabinet, gave it a little wallpaper, added a bed, and Piper has her own little apartment within our apartment, and that's how she knows it. Just a space for her to feel comfort and safe without being caged in. I usually have art in there, but I did switch it out for a little wreath for the holidays, and it's just a space that she just loves. And even when I'm not home, this is where she hangs out. It's her little apartment, right, Pipes? In an all-white kitchen, it's really important to bring in warmth. And what better way to bring in warmth than with wood tones? So when I was out flea marketing, I found a few items that I felt were perfect countertop items. And if it's this drawer set or this old pie safe, it really adds that, again, that warmth that you're missing in the all-white cold kitchens. If it's bringing in a pasta board or a cutting board and old stoneware bowls, what are the ways that you can bring in that coziness to your kitchen that's not only functional, but also beautiful? I have an immense collection of dinerware. You'll see it all throughout my home, not just my kitchen because I love it so much. But the best part about it is that it's indestructible. These are what they use in the diners. This is, you throw them around, and they have such a beautiful story to them. They have all these great little details. A lot of them are customized to the diner or the restaurant that they're at, and they have really great style. I particularly love buffalo china. It's a little collection that I have, and growing. And I'm being very specific when I thrift now. I'm only keeping buffalo, and everything else I'm bringing to the Point Pleasant booth. I'm a millennial, so coffee is very important to me. So it's very important to have a coffee station in your home. So behind this cabinet, I have all an immense collection of handmade mugs, but for this time of year, I do have a small collection of Santa mugs. And Santa mugs you'll find throughout different antique stores and stuff, they are pretty pricey, but they really are such an amazing part of the season. I always use them this time of year. I always have all of my friends over I kind of open my home as a coffee shop and have all my friends over throughout the day, just during the holidays, to see my home all decorated and just to have some coffee and some pastries and things. I like to decorate them with some trees while we're not using them, but having a coffee station is so important if you're a millennial, obviously. There's also so many thrifted items and antique items throughout. The tea kettle is actually really good, something to talk about. This is actually brand new. I got it off a website, and it's new because it's stainless steel on the inside but copper on the outside. And then I personally took the time to patina it so it looked old, because I love the look of the copper pots. I just don't like the grime and crud of copper pot. So this gives me the look without the kind of grime. Again, I'm a renter, so not every apartment is going to be something I can customize to make perfect for me. I decided that I wanted to hide my washer dryer. I'm very lucky to have a washer dryer in my unit, but I didn't love the look of a stacked washer dryer. So I decided to do a floor to ceiling curtain. I had all of my cleaning products, my brooms, my vacuums, and my laundry right behind here. So it definitely hides with some style. When I first moved in here with almost 7 years ago, I just wanted to get it done. So I went to Target and any kind of big place, and I got all random stuff, and I lived here for about a year and I hated everything I had. I was like, this is not me at all. And a year and a half in, I basically changed everything, and I really started the kind of secondhand home that I have. I've collected from, again, thrift shops or antique stores or anything like that, and I found items that personally I love. And I think when you're designing a space, if you love it, it goes. There doesn't have to be anything cohesive about color or anything. If you love it, then that's enough to make it work in your home, in your space. So I just filled my space with things that I love, and I love being here. It definitely is a labor of love and definitely time intensive, but I think I've really created something special to me, especially because I rent. I can't truly make things fully my own. So I think finding these items and arranging them in such a way that feels right really adds that home aspect to my house. On my holiday home tour, you'll find lots of things that you're not going to find at a big name store. Lots of homemade items from old family members, old store advertisements, glass ornaments from all over the world in every color under the sun, and then just everything that is going to make you feel that holiday feeling. So this is my landing, I like to call it, because this is really the first thing you see when you come into my home. It's a very small space. It was hard to figure out what I wanted to do with this space. This apartment doesn't have a natural place for a table and chairs to have a meal at. So I decided to kind of make this a small banquette type space. Again, really quite small, so it had to be a small table. And I found this one on Facebook Marketplace. It was the perfect size, perfect style. It's definitely wonky and well-loved and seen some age, but it really is the perfect place to work from home when I'm able to do that, and just have a meal. Again, I'm not serving an entire feast on this table, but for me and a friend, I think it's really great. I also am an avid art collector. So I really needed a space, really wall space, to highlight as many pieces as I possibly could. So you'll see everything from original oils to prints to any kind of artwork, including more pheasants and taxidermy. I also, again, light is so important to me. I just recently thrifted this light. So on this side of the landing, I needed more space for all of my dinerware. So again, Facebook Marketplace, found this cabinet, filled it to the brim with dinerware and some more platters. I have a bit of a platter problem. But I really wanted to make this space, again, since it's really the first thing you see when you come in, I wanted it to be the most holiday. So I ended up making this ornament tree. So I just took a cardboard core and hot glued a bunch of ornaments onto this tree. My love of Christmas collecting started with a tree topper, and this year I really wanted to showcase the tree toppers that I did have. I had all these, and I have probably 200 brass candlesticks that I've thrifted over the years. I use them for parties and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, I wonder how I can showcase these without having trees, right? So I just used a little bit of that stickum kind of wax, and I just put them in here, and I really feel like they showcase them so beautifully. You're really able to get the shine, and the look I think is so cool, especially paired with all the vintage ornaments here. So you guys came at a perfect time. I was just in the middle of a kind of bedroom makeover, and I'm finally in a good place, and I really love it. So previously my bedroom was full of mid-century furniture, which is beautiful, but kind of my style has evolved, and the function of the furniture was less great for me. So I decided to do a big change around. I moved all of my furniture around, brought in older pieces that I felt were a better fit for the room and the style of the space. When I was designing this space, I think the biggest thing I wanted was a sanctuary that felt very calm and kind of a little oasis towards the end of the day. You know, with 4 jobs, I'm very busy, so rest is very important to me. So when I was deciding on colors and feeling and vibe, I really just wanted to go with warm and cozy. Even when it comes to the decorations in here, I wanted to stick with those like more woodsy tones. The tree is just silver and gold, very classic. I also added a lot of like stars and kind of celestial things kind of to feel like that nighttime vibe. Just really wanted to have like a really restful space. I decided linens that were just like super cozy and soft, colors that really felt like rich and beautiful, but also just casual. I think that's the biggest thing, specifically with my bedroom design, is that it had to be casual. I live here, you know, making the space livable for me is obviously the most important. Beautiful is great, but I should make sure I feel the most at home. So I am a horse boy at heart. I think from a very young age, even my first bedroom had wallpaper cowboy borders around it. I've always had a love for horses, and that is the one thing that's really kept through my entire life and through all of my design choices. So I really decided to bring in a lot of equestrian type style art. So this is a print that I found and then got professionally framed. You'll see lots of horse imagery around my entire apartment, and any kind of horse figure. I have some brass horses, wood horses. It just brings me such comfort and really brings me back to kind of a beginning of time for me. I also love pairing, again, my love and collection of art. I recently went to an amazing estate sale, and it was an artist's home, and they unfortunately passed away, and they had walls and walls covered with their art. And very similarly to the portrait art, I really love that I was giving these paintings, these oil paintings, a second life. So because I rent, I don't have control over a lot of things, including my neighbors. I don't have the prettiest neighbors, so it was important to me to have a little bit of privacy, but also have a little bit of style. So I got this very easy to install kind of like cling film that added a little bit of extra charm to the window, but also added that little frosted privacy that I was looking for. And I think it's been a really fun addition to the room. Not only does it bring in kind of that old world style, but also the extra privacy that I was looking for. Welcome to the Portrait Gallery. Most of my collections take years to collect, and this is no exception. This has probably taken about 8 years to collect as many portraits as I can, and the collection just continues and continues. I have yet to stop looking and finding them. Stranger art is one of those things that people are a little iffy about, like, what kind of spirits am I bringing into my home? I welcome them very much because I really do feel like they needed that extra, the love. I couldn't imagine discarding a loved one or a friend at the thrift shop or at an estate sale, so I tried to rescue as many as I can. I don't know a single one of them personally, but I do love to make up little stories. You know, we have Regina George over here, of course, and a whole bunch of random people that I just decide to make up stories for. We got grandmas, we got cousins, we got uncles and brothers, and it's all fun. I also have one dog. But yeah, I just, as I find them, I get them, and I just try to save as many as I can. It's funny because when I think about my home, I think, it's full of stuff, but really stuff is not what makes the home. Home is truly the feeling you have in it, which is why when you fill it with things that you love, it does become a special space for you. So it's hard to say what home is, because it's really what home feels. Happy holidays, Homeworthy. Thanks so much for touring my home, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.